Bom, gente, eu tô aqui na feira ainda, na Espero, tá? Com o Francesco Nepitello. O Francesco, para quem não conhece, ele é o autor do War of the Ring, que foi publicado no Brasil pela Devir, e ele é o autor do One Ring, ele é um dos grandes designers do One Ring, que é o RPG que a Free League faz, e que também é publicado aí no Brasil, agora tá chegando em segunda edição, pela Devir também, tá? Good morning, thanks to attend this quick interview. Yeah?
Good morning.
And my first question is, I saw your first games, yeah, and your first game was quite small and quite simple games, yeah, family games or fillers, and
you're talking about Xbox,
yes, and so on, yeah. The micro game, yes. There was one about football. There was one race game also.
Right. Card games, small card games.
Yeah, and then a couple of years later, you came up with War of the Ring. War of the Ring. Whoa, quite a change. Quite a change. How was this happens? You came from small games to a real complex and big game.
Yeah, actually, it's funny to see this from the outside, because from my perspective, those games were the exception. Because I was always a wargamer and a role player, and in fact my first published game is a role-playing game in '93, Lex Arcana, and after that I moved on and published things like Micromutants and Goal and those card games, Flying Circus.
Flying Circus, yeah.
Yes. Just because at that time, about '93, there was a sort of a crisis in role-playing games. Magic the Gathering came out, and role-playing games basically disappeared for a while, and so we had to decide what to do with as game designers, and we had an opportunity with a local company that had a very good national distribution, that was Del Negro, that was doing mainly card games, and so we started collaborating with them. And X-Bugs and Micromutants, it's a tiddlywink game with plastic chips that jump, was a game that me and Marco Maggi, my co-designer, we were playing that thing since we were kids. and at the time we had a close relationship with Alex Randolph, a very big name in game design, especially in the beginning, one of the first game authors. And when he saw the game, because it was tiddlywinks, so plastic chips, but with stickers that identified them as creatures with special powers, and the game had dice. And so Alex Randolph, when he saw that, he saw an opportunity, because he thought that's a very good improvement. The key for him for everything is improvement. If you're doing something that is always the same, like just another card game, it's not anything special. But if you have something that improves the thing, then it's a breakthrough. You know, the biggest breakthrough we know in our age is Magic the Gathering, where it's a card game, yes, it's a collectible. The two things together become a genius improvement. And so, of course, Micromutants was not that genial, but it was an opportunity. And in fact, we had our chance to be published outside of Italy for the first time. And then one thing led to another, because we were collaborating for that game with Roberto Di Meglio from Nexus at the time, an Italian company, and we had a common passion for the Lord of the Rings. And we were always going to Nuremberg, the game fair, and every time we were driving there, we were talking about things that we would have liked to do, and we were saying, it would be fantastic to make a Lord of the Rings game made like the card-driven, new at the time, the more modern war games using cards to simulate events. And so, we started thinking about it. We started thinking how we could do that type of thing, and eventually that led to the idea of the action dice that we have in War of the Ring, that it's possibly, I don't mean trademark mechanic, because it's not, we don't own it and people can use it, and other games used something like that, but the idea that you limit your options by rolling dice, and the dice tell you the type of actions, the menu of action that you can access. So it's the same limiting element that you have with a hand of cards. With card-driven games, you have a hand of cards to play, to make your actions, and so you just have a number of actions among the cards you have in your hand. You cannot do everything. Like in war games, original war games, you had hundreds of counters and you could do anything. And the limiting factor is the typical thing that makes a good game, because you have to take meaningful actions.
Yeah, you have to choose.
You have to choose. So if you do something, you cannot do something else, and so on. And so the action dice system was born out of that, and we are still doing it, because in fact our latest design, Dune, War for Arrakis, a big game that we made for Simon, uses action dice. And so we're continuing to refine the system. And yeah, so we passed from very small card games to monster games.
And it's very interesting. In your portfolio you have War of the Ring, you have the role-playing game, the One Ring that is published in Brazil also, but you have now Dune, and you work also with a game about the Golden Compass, I think.
Oh yes.
They're all this all franchises have one thing in common, that they are huge franchises with many lore behind it.
Oh yes.
You're really a fan about from these things, from this lore.
It is also a thing that where, of course, companies have seen that we could make good games out of intellectual properties. They knew that if they came to us to make a game based on something, it would not be simply like a superficial game that uses the imagery from something and then slaps a mechanic over it. They know that if we apply to create something that is based on a literary property or a movie, we're going to make it really close to what it was. So, for example, we made War of the Ring, but we also made Age of Conan, and also
Conan.
Also Marvel Heroes. It was a big game on superheroes at the time. It was probably the only strategy game with superheroes at the time. And then and the Golden Compass was a simpler game. In that case, the connection was through Sophisticated Games. That is the same company that has the rights for adventure games in Tolkien's world, and I liked a lot the books. So it was I offered myself to do it. And the same thing happened with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. That is a book by Susanna Clarke. That is, I think, the fantasy masterpiece of our age. It's an amazing book. It's incredibly deep, full of details, and a fascinating world. And we did a game with Osprey for that. Of course, the drawback of games like based on properties is that their success is also tied very tightly with the success
with the franchise,
of the franchise.
With the living of the franchise.
Yes. So, for example, the Golden Compass was damaged by the fact that the movie was not good, and also they made some very last-minute changes that affected the game, because in the game there's a storytelling flow that is different from the movie, because in the movie they decided to swap some scenes differently from the book. And so, and of course, also the Battle of Five Armies that we did for The Hobbit. Now it's a very good success for us, especially because the company Arrakis has made a collector's edition. But when the game came out, it was a bit cold, the reception, because the Hobbit movies were not as popular as the Lord of the Rings movies. So it's always you know that you're going to attract more people based on the property, but first you have to do it right, and second, the movie or the book must be a success. So with books, usually you don't have that problem, because you already know if they've been a success or not. With movies, sometimes you're developing the game as the movie is being done or is just out, so you don't know if it's going to be a success. For example, with Dune, it was like that. We didn't know if the movie by Villeneuve was going to be a success or not. Now we know it was a success. And it's also a very good movie, so we're super happy and waiting for the second episode. And that, by the way, will be out more or less when Simon will start delivering the game to backers. So just the perfect time to enjoy the game.
Nice.
And by the way, with Dune, the disadvantage was that since our game covers the majority of the book, of the Dune book, the first book by Frank Herbert, but specifically it is about the war, and the war didn't even start yet in the movie. In the movie, I mean, our game starts when the first Dune movie ends. So the next episode for Dune will be perfectly showing what we have in the game. So
Nice.
I'm really eager to see how they did that, because it's going to provide so much food for your brain when you play the game, and seeing the movie that shows exactly the things that we have placed in the book.
Nice. And how you tell me about your co-designer? Yes,
Marco
long time
Maggi,
co-designer Marco Maggi. How is to work with someone in several different games for so long time?
Well, it's very good, because we developed a perfectly tuned process. Now we don't even have to discuss things like, oh, I should do this, you should do that, because it comes very natural. And in some games I have the lead, like for example with role-playing games, I am more passionate about role-playing games, I'm more knowledgeable, I play more than he does with role-playing games, so that's what I do mainly in the group. Marco, for example, now is following more board game designs. With Dune we were mainly split 50-50, but with more games coming out that I cannot yet reveal what they are, Marco has taken the lead on that, together also with our developer Michele Grabuggio. That we have a studio in Venice, and it's me and Marco full time there, and Michele that comes, it's from the nearby town, so he comes to see us once a week, otherwise we work online. So yeah, it's so natural. We don't always agree on things, and that's a very good thing, because we fight over stuff, and that brings something new, because you don't want somebody that says yes to everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you propose something and the other one thinks it's not a good idea, he's going to tell me. So yeah, it's always a good exchange of opinions, even. And since we know each other so well, we can afford to be very blunt, very direct, and fight over things, because we're not taking it personal.
Nice. And you say that you are today most focusedly in the RPGs, this development. Yeah, like the One Ring. You have in the fair we have a launch of a new expansion for the One Ring. Yeah.
Yes.
The Ruins of Lost Realm is here. This one is was already there. In the new
and
one,
Tales from the Lowlands, the adventure anthology by Gareth Hanrahan, who's the same. He's probably our best writer so far for the One Ring. He already collaborated with me on first edition, on the first edition of the game, on several books for the original one. Mainly the Darkening of Mirkwood, that was a campaign that was very well received by the fans, and so we decided to give him as much work as possible. So in fact he recently finished Moria.
There's a Kickstarter, I think.
The Kickstarter for Moria. And so so Tales from the Lowlands is out. It's basically a companion book to Ruins of the Lost Realm. So this one is a supplement that is more of a sandbox type of thing. So you have traces for campaigns, and you have landmarks. So you have places that you can use as you want, because there's this mechanic that I borrowed from Forbidden Lands, another game from Free League that works very well, that you have players that can gather rumors, legends and stuff about places, and they can decide to go and see them whenever they want, or maybe to gather more information. You know that in our game we have a fellowship phase that regulates downtime between adventures. Between adventures, one thing you can do is to gather rumors, to hear about stuff, so that the GM can the lore master can hand you information about some place, so eventually you may go there. And that's my favorite way of playing the game. Instead of having an adventure divided in chapter 1, chapter 2, and a bit of a railroad, playing with Ruins of the Lost Realm, you're really free to do what you want. Maybe you're based in Bree or in Tharbad, because there's the description of Tharbad in this supplement. You are based there, maybe you have a home there, but then you hear rumors about some place, and then you go there. We have the routes for journeys in the One Ring, so you can go there, and the story just happens. With the Tales from the Lowlands, we are helping lore masters to do that, by providing more structured adventures in the same area for this one.
So
you can play it by its own anyway. I mean, you don't need to have the additional information, but of course the two together work very well
together.
Yes.
But it's not the only thing that you are now releasing in Essen. There is also for the War of the Ring an expansion. There is the Kings of the Middle Earth.
Yes. It's funny that I have to be reminded of this because I did my part of that supplement, that expansion, so long ago that I forgot. So when you tell me, they're releasing Kings of Middle Earth, yes, that's right. Yes, finally.
That's it was really made a long time ago.
It's the thing with War of the Ring is that it's a game that works very well by itself. It doesn't need expansions. This makes making expansions very difficult. And even if it was easy to come up with a concept, in this case, Kings of Middle Earth is about the rulers of nations in Middle Earth, like King Dain for the Lonely Mountain, or King Thranduil of the Woodland Realm, Denethor is the steward of Gondor, and King Theoden of Rohan. That they are not featured prominently in the core game because they are just depicted in event cards and stuff like that. With Kings of Middle Earth, you get them to be more personalized, but the thing is that to make it fit into the game that is already so tight and works well, it takes a lot of playtesting. So that's why my design, mine and Marco and Roberto design, was delivered to the company, I think 7 or 8 years ago. And then Ares Games is a small company, so they need their time to do things for a big game like this one with big print runs and figures and everything, but also they took a long time to develop it.
To play test and to tune, to make balance and so on.
Luckily, Ares has a very dedicated group of fans that take part in the playtest, play a lot of games, make sure that everything is balanced. So the product is really good and really part of the game. Is the third expansion, so it's a trilogy of expansions. So I'm very happy about that, and again, it's nice because I even forgot the work I put into that because it's so long ago. So now it's a plus. It's out. I would like just to add one thing because since you mentioned that I'm dedicated more to role-playing games nowadays, it is true because I'm especially working on new stuff for Simon. Because I'm apart from Dune and also Trudvang Legends that we did some time ago, it was partly developed by me, Marco, and Umberto Pignatelli mainly, who's a writer near Turin. I am the head of the role-playing game department of Simon, and we are developing a lot of stuff there. It's Guillotine Press, it's a different imprint, and you will hear more about it. But right now we have the pre-order for Assassin's Creed, the role-playing game. We made with this game with Ubisoft that is completely based on the franchise of the game, and I think that it adds a lot to the franchise because it's all about the war with the Templars and I don't know if you know something about that, and the fact that you have this device, the Animus, that you use to explore ancestral memories. So you create modern day characters, you get into the Animus, and then you explore time periods that are completely different. You can have sessions where you play in the Middle Ages, another one where you play in feudal Japan, another one during the Second World War. So it's a sort of a time machine game, and that's the first thing that we have released so far. Not yet in physical form, but in pre-order and soon in PDF. But there's more.
There's more to come.
Yes.
There's more to come.
Yes.
Okay, nice. I will expect the other launches in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, many thanks for your time. Okay,
Thank
you. Can you send a hello for the Brazilian guys that follow you also?
Oh yeah, sure. So to all the players of Manel and the World of the Ring, thank you, and I hope that you will enjoy the new stuff we're bringing on and the new supplements. And thanks to the beer, Brazil also, that is bringing the game to you. And you will see more.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.